Lucamus Prime here, so it is time for the next episode of my series, Old is Better Than New. And in today's video, I'm going to be covering this time one of my favourite animated series of all time. And this is definitely for me a big example I can say of an animated franchise where for me the old is better than the new, especially when it's compared to what we're getting today, in my opinion. And this franchise actually began in the 1960s, and this was also as well created by Joe Ruby and Ken Spears for Hanna-Barbera. And this franchise, where in my opinion old is better than new, is none other than Scooby-Doo. Now, you guys are probably going to be asking me, of course, also, how has my life been as a fan of Scooby-Doo? Well, Scooby-Doo has been one of my favourite animated franchises of all time, ever since I was a little kid. And I've come across this franchise at many points in my life, and I can tell you about the time I've watched it. So, of course, the franchise first began, of course, in 1969 with the series Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, which to me is a timeless show, which, in my opinion, is definitely one of the greatest shows ever made, in my opinion, and definitely a phenomenal start to this franchise. For me, definitely, in my opinion, just such a joy to watch. And I watched many episodes of that on reruns when I was a little kid, and I definitely really loved it. Then also as well, I saw another show as well, which was called The Scooby-Doo Show. Definitely, in my opinion, also another great show, absolutely. And then, if you guys were to ask me what is for me the best Scooby-Doo media, well, I will definitely go with the show What's New Scooby-Doo, mainly because that is the show I grew up when I was a kid the most. I used to watch that show the most when I was a kid, and I definitely really loved as well the characters in it. And I also think the franchise had really great voice actors for its time as well, in my opinion, who did absolutely phenomenal jobs bringing these characters to life, and I'm so thankful for as well. And What's New Scooby-Doo for me is the best Scooby-Doo media of all time. Then unfortunately, after this, I also as well did see the two live-action Scooby-Doo movies that were released in 2002 and 2004. Now, I am not going to deny that there are many problems I do have with the first of those live-action movies. I personally found the second film, Monsters Unleashed, a lot more tolerable, but still, in my opinion, not that good of a movie, because I kind of feel that the films, especially the first one, had way too many jokes in them which were not appropriate for a family-friendly audience, because Scooby-Doo, in my opinion, is a franchise which is aimed for everyone, including children, so I didn't really like how the first one especially had lots of inappropriate jokes in it, which I've noticed when I rewatched the films as well many times too as well, and I found pretty cringe-worthy. But I would gladly watch those over again today for Scooby-Doo, in my opinion, that's for sure. And I've also as well seen several of the animated films as well, which I've definitely really loved as well. And we've also the same character designs as watching Scooby-Doo as well, the same voice actors, which definitely makes, in my opinion, a lot of fun to watch. And to this day, I think the old Scooby-Doo shows hold up really well, in my opinion, too. Absolutely. Because even when I rewatch them, they're still, in my opinion, just a joy to watch. Absolutely. And also as well, I've also come across the gang and Scooby as well in other things too, such as, for example, crossover appearances like in video game territory, of course. I've played several games, like, for example, Nintendo DS for Scooby-Doo. And also as well, of course, Scooby and Shaggy both appeared in LEGO Dimensions, which is pretty awesome as playable characters. I definitely love that. But now on to why I personally think Scooby-Doo is better in the old than the new. So, and I'm talking about the recent stuff in the 2020s decade, because personally, I feel that this decade is when the franchise really has gone downhill. And it's a big shame, really, because I've seen bits of the shows which came out in the 2010s decade, like for example, the show Mystery Incorporated, which I think is quite an underrated show, in my opinion, I must say, really. But I think deserves more attention. But I personally think the 2020 decade was probably the start of the downfall of the franchise, because in 2020, we got a film which was animated, and it was supposed to release in theatres, but due to the pandemic at the time of the film's release, it was decided to just release on DVD instead of a theatrical release. But unfortunately, despite this earlier than expected release, no delays, it was definitely, in my opinion, not worth it, because this film, of course, was none other than Scoob. Now, I didn't watch Scoob until probably like a couple of years after it came out, because it came out on Amazon Prime, so I gave it a watch, and unfortunately, I ended up really hating it, because I thought it was terrible, and I think it was definitely, in my opinion, a massive joke to a Scooby-Doo franchise, because it wasn't even a Scooby-Doo movie in the first place. It was simply a very dumb setup for a shared universe of Hanna-Barbera characters, including Scooby. Like, in my opinion, the only good thing about that film for me was Frank Welker reprising his role as Scooby, but why did they get him to reprise his role as Fred? You know, the character he's played since 1969, and in my opinion, he still got it despite being in his 70s. He can still sound like a young man playing Fred. So I don't understand why they couldn't get him back as Fred as well as Scooby. That, in my opinion, was just so stupid. And the film itself, in my opinion, is a joke because it's nowhere near as funny or as entertaining as the original Scooby-Doo shows or direct-to-video movies that I saw when I was a kid. In my opinion, Scoob sucked. And I don't understand what happened with it at all, really. Like, it was definitely, in my opinion, terrible. And it was so bad, guys, I'd rather watch the live-action films over it. And that's definitely saying something, because I'm not even a fan of those two live-action films for the early 2000s that much. Because in my opinion, all the best thing about those films for me was Matthew Lillard as Shaggy, because in my opinion, he was a perfect casting, and he'd of course go on to voice him after Casey Kasem retired. Rest in peace to Casey. But the Scoob film, in my opinion, though, is absolutely terrible. But that being said, though, it's definitely not as abominable as what came next in early 2023. Because now, I have thankfully not seen what came out in 2023, what I'm going to be talking about, but I've seen clips of this show. I've seen pictures of it as well on Twitter. They've been posted by people who've seen it. I've also heard nothing but bad news about it from people who reviewed it. And I've heard from many people that they've tried to watch after like one episode and they don't want to watch any more. And based on what I've heard, I don't blame him in the slightest, because that show is none other than Velma! And now, if I was to actually give this show a single second of my time, guys, I'd probably regard it as one of the absolute worst shows I'd ever had the misfortune of seeing, because even the small clips alone I've seen and the screenshots I've seen of it are enough for me to say it's absolute garbage, and in my opinion, the absolute worst Scooby-Doo media of all time. Like, guys, it makes the two live-action films look like a Dark Knight in comparison. Like, that's how bad it is, in my opinion. Like, because in my opinion, guys, from what I've seen of it, there's nothing at all that can redeem that garbage whatsoever. And from what I've heard about people who tried to watch it but couldn't watch anymore, like, for example, one of my best friends, Ozzy, and also on my favourite reviewing YouTuber, Heel vs. Babyface, and also Tyrone Magnus, I'm a critical drinker, after they tried to watch the first episode and couldn't watch anymore, I personally don't blame him the slightest. I think I'm holding the right thing, avoiding more, because from what I've seen of it, it's just complete trash, and it completely destroys what I love about Scooby-Doo by turning it into a very dark, horrible franchise where it doesn't even focus on Scooby, it focuses on Velma. And also, get this, guys, Scooby's not even in the show at all. Like, you do a show about Mystery Incorporated's team members, but you don't include Scooby. Then again, I'm pretty sure they'd probably butchered Scooby in this show anyway, wouldn't they, if he was in it? Like how they've butchered other characters, like Velma is turned into an absolutely insufferable character who's so unlikable. Like, goodness me. And that made me lose respect for Mindy Kaling as well, because I personally can't stand her nowadays because of this show. Like, I can't believe she did that to this show. Oh, like, what was she thinking? And also, as well, I also definitely really hated what we did to Shaggy, how he's not, of course, the scaredy cat we all know and love from the shows. He's instead going by his actual name, which is Norville, not Shaggy. And from what I've heard of his voice, he sounds so bland like the rest of the whole cast. Like, honestly, guys, no one, in my opinion, when it comes to voice casting, saved the show. And Frank Welker also has my respect because he recently slammed the show, and I don't blame him whatsoever for slamming it, because the show, in my opinion, is absolute garbage, and I couldn't agree more with what he said. Frank is an absolutely awesome voice actor. It's a shame he got dragged into the show to play Fred's dad, isn't it? But thankfully he didn't voice Fred, because I'm pretty sure they'd probably masked his Fred if he voiced him, wouldn't they? Unfortunately. But thankfully it wasn't the case. But all I can say is that Velma, in my opinion, is total trash. Nothing good about it, in my opinion, at all. And, like, honestly, guys, it makes everything Scooby-Doo related before it look like masterpieces in comparison. Even the bad stuff like Scooby Movie. Like, I would gladly watch that over Velma if I was to pick any day. Like, I can't believe what happened at all with this franchise. So, when it comes to a future Scooby-Doo, in my opinion, and it's just in tatters because of this. Like, I'm not sure if a franchise can bounce back from this. I really don't know. I'm just really appalled by what's become of a franchise. I really am. Like, my childhood, my favourite dog who solves mysteries. Like, come on. Like, Scooby's probably my favourite cartoon dog of all time. And his franchise has been absolutely ruined beyond all belief. So, all I can say is, screw the Scoob movie and screw the Velma show all the way. In my opinion, they're both absolute trash. And I just really can't stand what's become of this franchise, and I'm just really appalled by it. So, anyway, guys, this is me covering why, in my opinion, old Scooby-Doo is better than new. Like, and I couldn't be in all truth to my word saying that. It's also really sad how even Family Guy got Scooby-Doo right compared to Velma. Even when it included it's in dark stuff like that dark thing called the Scooby-Doo Murder Files, even that was more faithful to Scooby-Doo's characters than Velma was any day. Like, I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's unfortunately true. So, long story short, guys, to me, Scooby-Doo was much better than old. And I'll stick to the actually great Scooby-Doo stuff. You know, the original cartoons, including my favourite, which is Watching Scooby-Doo, and also the direct-to-video films, which use the same character design and the same voice actors as Watching Scooby-Doo. And I'll even as well play the old games too, because I bet even they're better than today's Scooby-Doo as well. So, you know the drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to let me know in the comments what you guys think of Scooby-Doo. Do you think old's better than new for Scooby-Doo? Let me think in the comments below. Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe for this coming future, and I'll see you all later.